Hi guys, today I wanted to go over the format for doing analysis in the body paragraphs because I feel like this is a place where a lot of people struggle. So let's get to it. First thing you are going to want to do, as with any time that you've been asked to write, is to look at the writing prompt. So in this specific example, we've been asked to write about an Ayn Rand's anthem. What is the significance of the words I am, I think, I will? In a well-developed paragraph, fully explain. Okay, so we know that a thesis statement has two components, the what and the why. So I, as the writer, am looking at this prompt. I'm like, okay, what am I going to write about? I obviously have to write about these words. Okay, that's the what. And then why are they significant? So that's what I'm going to construct a sentence saying. Rand's noble character equality abandons his society's values when he adopts first-person pronouns. By changing the character's dialect, Rand signals an ideology shift from compliance to rebellion. So, I've color-coded my what in the yellow, the why in blue, and notice the whole rest of my paragraph is going to be talking about this ideology shift from equality being a compliant member of the Anthem Society to a rebel. Next, we're going to look at topic sentences. Topic sentences are like a thesis statement in the way that a thesis statement is kind of the roadmap, the main idea for the whole paper. The topic sentence is just the main idea for the paragraph. So, in some way, the topic sentence and thesis statements need to have a connection. So let's look at what I've done. I know that I'm going to be writing about individuality. I'm going to be writing about that in the form of rebellion. So I'm going to have something to that, of that nature in my topic sentence. So right here, Anne emphasizes the importance of individuality through her character equality, who in both words and actions no longer adheres to the rules and norms set forth by his restrictive society. Okay, so I've mentioned this restrictive society, and I have no longer adheres to the rules. That is connected to the rebellion. And then the individuality here is the adoption of the first person pronouns. Okay? Please notice in my topic sentence, there are no literary terms, rhetorical devices, or quotations. It's just simply what you believe as the writer you're supposed to be writing about in that paragraph. All right, next, because you are writing, you need something from the literature to support what you're saying. And we do that in the form of embedded evidence. Remember, when you embed your quotes, that you need to have them flow seamlessly in your writing. So you need to have some kind of context, help your reader kind of get oriented, and then provide the embedded evidence followed by parenthetical documentation. So let's look at the example. After first escaping from the confines of society, establishing his own home, and acknowledging his freedom, equality contemplates, I think, I am, I think, I will. Rand 81, period. Okay, so let's look at some things that I did well. You'll notice the parallel structure I used with the escaping, establishing, and acknowledging. That's just good writing. But then instead of, so my embedding here, obviously it can't be too complex because it is simply what he is thinking and it's important. But notice, instead of saying equality thinks or equality says or ponders, I chose a stronger word. I chose contemplate, so it's just a little bit more advanced. Notice for our parenthetical documentation that the quotation marks end here. You have your documentation and the period goes outside there. The period indicates that this documentation goes with this quotation. All right, moving along. So the next one, this is where the section that's probably very different to what you're used to writing. This is where the true analysis is really coming into play. And this is looking at how the literary devices or rhetorical devices are working in the piece. And one of the great things that I love about teaching literary analysis is that there are a lot of ways to look at a quotation. For example, I'm going to write about the shift from the third person pronouns to the first person pronouns in my example. However, if you look at the same example here, you'll also see that there is, they've got short syntax with subject verb, I am, I think, I will. So you can write about that as they're kind of like statements of intention or belief. I could also write about the anaphora because it's a repetition of I at the beginning of 3 different sentences. I am, I think, I will. And I can talk about the importance of the repetition there. So you can choose to write about any device that you see. It just is going to change the way that you structure your sentence for that device. So let's look at what you're going to do. you need to include the device and the keyword. When I say keyword, I mean what does that device do? So for example, if you look at your literary terms packet, you will see words like simile. Similes compare. Metaphors compare. Okay, so the verb that goes with both of those particular devices is compare. So somewhere in my sentence, if I was talking about a simile or a metaphor, I would need to talk about the comparison that they create. Now, for my particular example, shifts signal a change or a transformation. So I'm going to need to have that word somewhere in my sentence. Also, you need to show me where from the embedded evidence do you see the device. So since I'm talking about the shift in the pronouns, I'm going to need to somewhere in my sentence reference where I saw that. So obviously it's the I, because that's the first person pronouns. Then I'm going to provide what is it doing and why is this important. So let's look at the complete example. The shift from third person pronouns to the first person pronouns of I indicates a transformation in equality's perspective of his individuality. No longer will he conform to the demands of a restrictive society. Okay, so again, I told you I put in my shift because that's my device. Shifts, change. So instead of change, I just use transformations, just elevating my vocabulary a little bit. I show you where I saw it. It's it's the what. It changes from third person to first person. And then why is this important? So it's saying equality, finally, in this place in the story, is verbalizing that he is no longer going to be a member of that restrictive society. He is his own person. And that's what I wrote about. Moving on to the fourth sentence. And the fourth sentence is kind of tricky because I think at this point, a lot of times students become redundant. They end up saying the same thing. So I think a good way to think about the fourth sentence and the seventh sentence and the 10th sentence is to think about what evidence, what idea is being put forth here. So something maybe a little bit bigger, and then I always go back and look at my thesis statement. Okay, what is it I'm trying to prove? Okay, so explain how the evidence helped the writer achieve the idea. So here I am going to mention Rand. Rand, clearly arguing against the ideals of collectivism, emphasizes the individual's need to rebel against restrictive doctrine. So that's connecting back to my what that we've been talking about all the way through. Okay, but now I'm going to get to that kind of bigger idea, that association, that's something just a little bit more meaty. This, thus, implying the fundamental human need for personal sovereignty instead of simply observing rules created by an oppressive party. So again, since I mentioned that an individual needs to rebel if they're not being allowed to be an individual, so that's why I talk about personal sovereignty, control over yourself, over your own destiny. And then again, the oppressive party is again referring back to this collective doctrine that we were asked to write about up here. So you're going to pretty much repeat sentences 2, 3, and 4 in the form of 5, 6, and 7, 8, 9, and 10. The 11th sentence we are just simply is going to be some kind of either a conclusion because you're about to be done, like with your essay, except for the actual paragraph conclusion, or it's going to really probably mostly serve as a transitory sentence. When I say transitory, I mean that it needs to kind of help sum up what you have already kind of said in very, very short, and then also provide a bridge to the next paragraph. And we'll look at transitions more as the year goes on. I just really wanted to focus today on looking at the actual body paragraph and what is expected from you. I hope this was helpful. If you need additional help, please come in for tutoring.